Good morning, ladies. Welcome to Math State Test Prep Boot Camp. I know, so exciting. Waiting for silence. All right. Boom. Today, the very first day of Math State Test Prep Boot Camp, we're going to be doing two things. The first thing is you are going to spend time identifying the concept in word problems by annotating keywords. Number two, we're going to utilize the strategic math plan. What? A strategic math plan, you say? You're probably wondering what that is. Let's find out. All right, so let's actually dig into this strategic math plan. We came up with a really cool name for it. It's called APIC. The A stands for annotate the question. It stands for identify the concept, and we'll talk about this in just a second. P stands for pick a strategy or a model in a problem. And we have I, including units. Now, units can be money, it can be centimeters, etc. Depends on the problem. And last but not least, we definitely need to make sure that we check to see if you actually answered the question in the first place. So let's go back to this concept. Speaking of concepts, we've spent a lot of time working this year in 7th grade math, and we've covered 6 concepts so far. Of those 6 concepts, 3 of them, ratios, number operations, and expressions and equations, you're going to see a lot on the state test. So we're going to focus on these 3 today during our test prep boot camp to make sure we know when we see this type of question. So for example, if you see a problem that talks about rate or percentages, you know that's a ratio problem, and you probably could use a ratio table. But if you saw a problem with expressions or solving equations, you know that's an expressions and equations problem, and you probably could use combining like terms. So let's actually apply this to a problem and use our strategic math plan at the same time. All right, ladies, it is time to jump into our very first problem together. Before we start it, I just want to start by saying our goal here is not to solve a problem yet. Our goal is to use these 3 steps of our strategic math plan, APIC, yeah, cool name, to just get a really good understanding of the problem. So you're going to be tempted to solve it, but remember, that's not our focus. So if I'm looking at my strategic math plan, the very first step is to annotate the question. So let's actually read through it and then annotate. A recipe requires 1/3 cup of milk for each 1/4 cup of water. How many cups of water are needed for each cup of milk? Okay, so immediately I see 1/3 cup of milk for each 1/4 cup of water. My question is, how many cups of water are needed for each, these keywords each, I want to make sure I circle and underline, cup of milk? The very first thing I'm noticing here is that 1/3 cup of milk for each, for every 1/4 cup of water, definitely reminds me of a ratio problem. So this is me taking my second step and identifying the concept. So I would definitely say that this concept that we're seeing here is a ratio type of problem. And even more evidence of that is in my question, I noticed too. In my question, it says how many cups of water are needed for each cup of milk. Each cup of milk means 1 cup of milk. This reminds me of a unit rate. if I know that this is a ratio problem and I'm dealing with unit rate, I know that I could use a ratio table to answer this question, with milk as my first term and water as my second term. So if I look at my strategic plan, I've annotated this problem, I've identified the concept, and I've chosen a strategy, which is my ratio table, to model what's happening to find my answer. So ladies, that's what we're going to focus on today. Remember, our goal is not to solve the questions quite yet, but just make sure that we're annotating, identifying a concept, and choosing a strategy or model to help us answer the question.